The Georgia Bulldogs will take the field for the first time as defending national champions. Of course, they will just be playing themselves at the spring game, but it's still a good time tracking spring football across the nation here at the Voice of College Football. Please like the video, share these videos out on social media, subscribe, and get on over to Big Dog Brett's channel as well as he talks Georgia football. Brett, how's it going today?
It's doing great, sir. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you stopping by. Let's march through some of this these personnel units as we head toward the Georgia spring game. And let's start with the offensive line because those are the personnel losses that have come down just in the last few days. And again, it highlights Georgia's amazing recruiting under Kirby Smart when two 5-stars off the offensive line entered the transfer portal because there's no path to the field to see significant playing time with Amarius Mims and Clay Webb. Again, two former 5-stars. Webb was the #1 center in the country, and Amarius Mims was a top 10 player, regardless of position, coming out of high school. And here they are. There's no way to get to the field, so they have decided to leave Athens.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough to look at a talented player and not see a way for them to really get in the game and play. Amarius Mims was kind of starting to work his way up. He's a sophomore, but he played in 8 games last year. I'm not sure what the deciding factor was in him wanting to transition over to somewhere else, but if you're a 5-star player and you feel like it's going to be tough for you to get enough playing time to show off your talent, that is a real indication of the kind of talent that's there at practice every day. So these guys see it, they know it. There's always talks that the reason that the player's leaving is because they're unhappy with a coach or the format or whatever. But unfortunately, when you've got this much talent on the field, things like this are going to happen. It's just part of the game.
And it's equal to 11 transfers, 11 guys in the transfer portal for Georgia. Let's go to a couple positions on the offensive side of the football that on the surface, for people that just watch the big games and see Georgia and know the star players would think, okay, who's ready to step up? And first we go to running back because, of course, Amir White and James Cook are gone to the NFL. So the 2 top running backs are gone, but plenty of depth there.
Georgia's running back room has always been very strong. You can fill up both hands when you're looking at elite running backs that have went on to become NFL players. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Todd Gurley, DeAndre Swift, Noshawn Marino. I mean, it doesn't take long to run through a whole litany of quality, talented players. Georgia, of course, loses their best running backs or their most experienced running backs that we had last year. However, Georgia is well prepared for that problem thanks to the recruiting of Kirby Smart and company. Kenny McIntosh is a senior this year, talented running back, and he's coupled with 2 guys, actually, Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards. Both are juniors. Both have a ton of experience. Both of those guys have played in big games and have done well. Not concerned about the running back position at all. Also, Georgia has Branson Robinson coming in, who's the #1 recruited running back in the country. And if you get an opportunity and you see a picture of this guy, you'll understand he looks like he's been working out for a pro wrestling event. The guy is absolutely chiseled marble. Very impressive young man. Very, very talented, very fast, and capable of stepping in and helping where needed. That being said, he is a freshman, so there's that freshman learning curve, but I think he's going to be just fine.
In Big Dog, we could say the same thing about the wide receiver position because if George Pickens was certainly the #1 target on this team 2 years ago, would have been this past season. Of course, he was coming off the ACL, just got back into the lineup near the end of the season. And Jermaine Burton has made his way in the transfer portal to Alabama. So the 2 top wide receivers from last year. But again, we're looking at a lot of guys that not only have talent, many of them have stepped up in some big games and made some key catches. So they've already proven that they can produce on the big stage.
Losing Jermaine Burton to Alabama upset a lot of fans. I mean, it's a lot of people reached out and they're like, why is he going to the team that you guys just beat? Why would he want to do that? And it's pretty obvious. Alabama is heavy at throwing to their WR1. There's a big position available at the WR1, and he certainly has the talent. I don't think there's anybody over on the Alabama roster that can really compete with Jermaine Burton for that WR1 position. But if you look at Georgia, Georgia actually has at least 6 other guys at the wide receiver position that can compete for that role. So is it a loyalty thing? I don't think it's a loyalty thing. I think that this young man is trying to take an opportunity to go play for a good team and a good coach that give him a great opportunity to go to the NFL. I think it's a business decision. I can respect it. They've done a really good job of coaching up their wide receivers and getting him in the NFL. So you can't be mad at that guy. He contributed to a national championship winning team. Hats off to him. Do I wish he would have stayed? Absolutely. But unfortunately, there's just so much talent on the Georgia roster. It really kind of made him have to make a hard decision. And I think he made a good one. I'm not mad about it. Georgia's current roster of wide receivers is going to consist of Dominic Blaylock, who played outstanding in the national championship game. Ladd McConkey, who last year had 31 receptions for 5 touchdowns. And out of those 31 receptions, had 447 yards. This is on a roster that spread the ball around extremely well. If Georgia had just 1 or 2 talented players, it probably would have seen him go for over 1,000 yards as a receiver. He just has that much talent. Carius Jackson had great roles last year. He did extremely well. From time to time, you would see him show up, and he's back. Rosemy Jack Saint, who's been out for a couple of seasons due to injury, he's back. Currently, Georgia has two wide receivers that are out due to injury, but it's early in the spring. They'll be back for the season, and that's Arian Smith and C.J. Smith. Both of those guys are lightning fast. Both are clocked currently at 22 miles per hour. So when you think about the amount of speed and the hands that are on Georgia's wide receiver room, this is one of the most talented wide receiver rooms we're going to have on the field at one time, even without a George Pickens. So I'm not concerned about the wide receiver position. There's a couple other positions I am concerned about, but wide receiver is not one of them.
So let's go there. But first of all, we'll let everyone know the Big Dog Brett's right here on YouTube. So check out his work covering the Dogs, the national champs. All right. So, yeah, where do you have some concerns? What is going to catch your eye, and what are you focusing on this Saturday?
This is going to be hard to test, but I really want to see what the defensive line can do. Georgia lost a ton of talent, just some of the greatest defensive players UGA has ever seen. And there's a lot of young players on that Georgia defensive line. Now, Zion Logue, Tramel Walthour, and Jalen Carter are all extremely experienced players. The first 2 have played in all 15 games last year. Jalen Carter, I believe, played in 8. But this is a position that, yes, Georgia does have a lot of guys for the defensive line. But if you go through the list here, freshman, redshirt freshman, redshirt freshman, redshirt freshman, redshirt freshman. I mean, there's just a ton of guys on here that are not, inundated with experience. Tamon Mitchell is a junior, but, I mean, you probably can't name any game that he played in last year. He played in a total of 5 games last year, just 5. So he doesn't have a ton of experience. He's played in 8 games total, and he's been at UGA since 2019. Yes, he's a junior, but not a lot of experience. So Warren Brinson is probably going to be the anchor for the defense. This is probably one of our best players. Played in 12 games last year. Very talented young man, but we don't have the monsters, in my opinion, as far as talent and experience that we had last year going into this year. So I'm really interested to see what the defensive line can do. And Georgia fans should brace themselves to that we're going to have a good defense. We're going to have a functional defense, but we are not going to have the basically iron wall that we had last year. So just don't panic. That's just the way it's going to be. So when you lose that much talent, it's going to take a step back.
Lose all that talent, lose defensive coordinator Dan Lanning, of course, and he's off to a good start there at Oregon, picking up all sorts of good recruits and coming back east for some of those with some of the relationships that he built.
Yeah, Dan Lanning is a talented guy, and I've said this numerous times. I don't want to take anything away from Dan Lanning. I do think it's unusual for such a young defensive coordinator to be as wildly successful as he was against the best coaches in college football. You're talking Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh, whether you think he's the greatest of all time or not, he did a great job last year. Um, the teams that he had to play against to perform as well as he did, that was very unusual. Not saying he didn't do it, but I'm saying I think there was a lot more. Kirby Smart had a hand on this, and Mr. Muschamp had a hand on it, and they were kind of helped steer that boat a little bit. I think that Dan Lanning did a great job, but I think there was a lot of influence from other more experienced coaches in there. And I think that experience is still at Georgia, and I think that you're going to continue to see a strong defense because of it. But I think right now we have the X's and O's, but we kind of need more Jimmys and Joes. So that's, the way that goes.
And of course, the quarterback situation is always going to get a lot of attention and pub. And, you have come on here and made a number of predictions that turned out to be exactly dead on, whether that was, mid-season talking about Georgia running the table and winning the rest of their regular season games, whether that was talking about there not being a much of a talent comparison between Georgia and Michigan and predicting that game and so forth. And you were pretty much in the same boat, and correct me if I'm wrong, about the quarterback situation and wanting a higher caliber player than Stetson Bennett. But to your delight and everybody else there in Dog Nation, Stetson Bennett proved up to the challenge and really was a gamer there in the fourth quarter when they were down with about 5 or 6 minutes left, and put together a touchdown drive that will go down in Georgia history, of course.
Absolutely.
So do you just think that he's got to be the starter and there's just no way around it, or the quarterback room is so loaded with Stockton and Beck and Vandegrift that those guys should be given a shot?
I think those guys are going to get their shot. But here's things that you have to acknowledge, whether you like to or not. You got to admit, Stetson Bennett put together a heck of a drive. That last drive reminded me of the JT Daniels drive where we went down and won the game against Cincinnati. And so, best drive that he probably had all season. Everything was right the way it was supposed to be. It was the most amount of pressure you could possibly be under. Not only was it late, I won't say late in the game, but it was later in the game. And he'd already had a call that was controversial that went against him. And he really could have folded up shop, and he could have let his emotions get the better of him. But Stetson Bennett's a fighter, and he's tough. He's really, really tough, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And those are X factors in quarterbacks that are intangibles. If you've got those in a quarterback, you've really got something. So, do I expect him to win the Heisman? No, but Georgia proved last year you don't have to have a Heisman winner to do that, to win. Now, from all accounts, what we've heard from Kirby Smart in the offseason and some of the spring practices and some of the scrimmages, his words, and I don't know how much of this is coach speak, but Stetson Bennett is playing the best football he's ever played. I said, okay, well, I guess they're not looking to change quarterbacks. At least Kirby Smart's not. So as hard as a lot of Georgia fans are on Stetson Bennett, I think you have to give him credit where credit's due. He went out there. He did what needed to be done when it needed to be done in the most critical moments of the game, and you can't take that away from him. And here's what a lot of Georgia fans do. They give a ton of credit to Keely Ringo for that interception and touchdown, as you should. But even without that touchdown, Georgia was still winning. So if the defense goes out there and they get a stop, not just an interception, but a stop, Georgia wins that game, and they would have won that game on the arm of Stetson Bennett. So when you're looking at guys like Carson Beck, who's been there a long time, a lot of people are asking, why is Carson Beck still there? Why is Carson Beck hanging around? Carson Beck is great at football, and I think he's trying to do what Stetson Bennett done, which was hang around Georgia for so long that eventually they got to play you. When you've got guys like Vandergriff and you got Gunnar Stockton, not too much worried about Gunnar Stockton trying to play this year because he's a great guy, outstanding player, but he's a true freshman. Vandergriff, I think, is going to be the future of UGA. I don't know where Carson Beck's going to fit into this equation. We keep getting kind of conflicting reports. Sometimes it's saying that Carson Beck had a great practice, but Vandergriff threw like 3 interceptions, or in the spring game, both of them threw an interception and neither one of them got a touchdown. And, they were playing with the 2s or something like that. So it's so hard to tell. But we're always going to be critical at the quarterback position. It's a vital position at UGA. I do think experience matters a ton. And I think that at this time, it's Stetson Bennett's job to lose this position if he wants to lose it. I don't see how he would. The Kirby Smart and company tend to be almost to the point of annoyance, pretty loyal to whatever quarterback they put in. They will let him play the whole game. There were times whenever as fans, we really thought they should have switched out a quarterback in a game, but they didn't. So I think Georgia fans are just going to have to accept the fact that Stetson Bennett, against maybe the consensus, is the quarterback, and he probably should be. Not just because he won the national championship, but because of the experience he has and how well he does under pressure. We don't know what we're going to get out of these other guys. So it's better the devil right?
All right. It will be the only time that we see Georgia on a football field until they match up in a premier matchup in week 1 against Oregon. Get on over to Big Dog Brett's YouTube channel and check out his work. Looking forward to the Georgia spring game with Big Dog Brett. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.